Welcome to the EOB podcast, where we talk about the weekend box office and the new openings this week. I'm Benno, and joining me is Sen Duong. Hey Sen, you there?
I'm here.
Alright, so this is the Monday after Civil War is in theaters. We have some numbers from last weekend, and we'll see how close our predictions were. I believe you were saying that it would break the all-time record of Jurassic Park. It's going to make over 209 million, and I said it's probably gonna do a little bit less than that, 190 million, and we'll see how close you were.
We were both off, so
I think I'm closer. I'm
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were both off. You were closer. I was high.
All right.
So I want to say something about the all-time record that I said was held by Jurassic World.
Yes.
I'm surprised we both didn't catch it last week. But the record opening is actually another movie. All-time opening.
Oh, okay. And what was that?
I'm just surprised that we both miss it. It's so obvious. The biggest opening of all time is
Dun-dun.
The Force Awakens.
Really?
What do you mean, really?
I knew it was big, but really? All time?
What do you mean, really? It was smashing opening day records, opening weekend records, weekly records. It was like breaking like a gazillion records. What do you mean, really?
I know. We were there, right? We were there, but I guess it just slipped our minds because maybe it was just that we didn't really like that movie.
No, I liked it.
I mean, I liked it, but like I said, it just kind of... I agree with the other critics of the movie that it's kind of like a retread, even though it's better.
Yeah, but I mean, regardless, it opened to 248 million. It's by far the biggest opening of all time in the US. I mean, by far. I mean, the next highest is Jurassic World's 209.
Yeah, but 209 is nothing to scoff at, too.
Yeah, it's nothing to scoff at, yeah. But it's so obvious, it's so huge that I'm surprised both of us let it slip when it's one of those movies. It broke so many records, too.
Let me put it this way, okay? Star Wars is the final boss, okay? You need to pass Jurassic World before you can get to Star Wars. How about that?
Okay, alright. Okay, anyway, Captain America Civil War opened to 182 million over the weekend. And you were closer, you said 190. I was bullish on 210. And you know what? When the figures came out on Friday, the Thursday previews was at 25 million. There was slight disappointment coming in because 25 million is one of the highest Thursday previews. I think it's like top 8. But even Batman v Superman had a Thursday preview of like 27 or 28 million. So immediately expectations were lowered, and when it's all said and done, I think the Friday figure was at 75 million, which again one of the biggest Fridays ever, but it was still behind Batman v Superman and a bunch of other movies, probably several other movies. So then after the Friday figure came out, people were expecting the movies to do 175 to 180 million, 182 million tops. And there was some disappointment coming in because people were expecting this to be, a movie that will open to over 200 million. Except you. So, yes. So you were actually more on the mark, especially compared to my figure and the figure of most analysts. So there was slight disappointment when people heard that, when the Friday figures came out. But at the same time, that was all because of the hype. But after that came out, everyone's like, look, 182 million. It's huge. It's like one of the top 5 openings ever. So there's nothing to be disappointed at. It's just that people's expectations were just too high.
Well, the only people who were disappointed, I think, are the box office analysts who predicted high numbers.
Right, right. Because when you look at it in Disney terms, especially compare, this is an Avengers level opening. So it's hard to compare it to, like one of their solo Marvel movies like Captain America. Because if you compare it to the previous Captain America, which opened to like 90 something million, this is night and day. And for a third film to do this well, it's kind of unprecedented, except for the Chris Nolan Batman movies. The Dark Knight Rises did like more than almost 3 times what the Batman Begins did. So
No. You just compare it to kind of like the Fast and Furious movies, right? Where each subsequent movie did better and better and better and better, and that's what Captain America did. I mean, that's what Iron Man, those Iron Man, those solo movies did.
No. Iron Man was kind of steady. Fast and Furious was steady until they did slightly better, but yeah. I guess maybe Fast and Furious is a bit closer analogy, but it seems like after the fourth film, it kind of did a lot better.
But what I'm saying, there are these incremental jumps where when we talk about sequels, normally there's a peak, right, and then there's the drop off. Yeah. But with these movies, the example I gave was the Fast and Furious movie, where each subsequent movies did, if not the same, better, right?
Yeah.
That means they're building on the fan base.
Right. We have to say after the fourth film though, because the original Fast and Furious movies, like first one did well, second one did just as well, not much better. And then the third one, none of the major stars returned, and it opened to 20 million and ended up doing 50 or 60 million.
Right, and then they did the Fast and Furious cinematic universe thing,
Yeah, but once they started with that, the grosses for, like you said, the subsequent films have done significantly better than previous films. Okay, but anyway, back to Captain America: Civil War. It is a Avengers level movie, and it had the Avengers level type of opening, but it didn't break any records.
Well, like I said, I don't think anyone is disappointed. I mean, the only people who are disappointed are the box office analysts who are way too optimistic about this movie, right? Captain America 2 opened to 95 million, and this is a huge jump, like almost double.
Yeah.
Almost double Captain America's 2's opening. Yeah, and then, movie has like a cinema score, 90% on the tomato meter. Critically, it's great. It's great with the audience, so it's going to stay in theaters until, more superhero movies come along.
Yeah, until the next X-Men comes out in a couple of weeks.
Right.
Here's the thing, though. I think one of the reasons for the slightly disappointing opening, according to the box office analysts, not the other people like you said, Batman v Superman did take some of the punch out of it. Both of them have the same premise. And it's not just, superheroes fighting against superheroes. But the premise of, hey, these superheroes during their many fights to defend our planet have killed a lot of innocent people in the process. But they're both about collateral damage. And these conflicts came about because of how they went about trying to take care of the consequences of the collateral damage. All these innocent lives being killed because of these superhuman battles that destroy buildings and cars being blown up into smithereens on the streets. It is the exact same premise, even though Captain America: Civil War handled it much, much better than Batman v Superman. And the motivations behind these superheroes going against each other is handled much more believably and in a much more, I guess, substantial manner than Batman v Superman.
Okay, I would have to offer an alternative take on this. I think the reason why, we're just splitting hairs right now, okay? But, like 181 million is awesome, okay? But why it didn't meet expectation, I guess?
Do you think it would have done better if Batman v Superman didn't open?
No.
Let's say if Batman vs. Superman opened later, you don't think that would have affected the grosses?
No, I'll tell you why. One of the reasons why it's because I think them fighting each other is not compelling enough. Normally you want to see these superheroes fight all these bad guys, not fight among each other.
No, I disagree with that. We've already seen a gazillion films where they fight bad guys. I thought Civil War's premise is actually very interesting. You have good guys fighting good guys. And you're like, why are these good guys fighting each other? So I thought that was actually a very interesting, compelling premise. Because we already seen a gazillion superhero movies where, it's bad versus good. We haven't seen many where it's good versus good.
Like I say, we are splitting hairs right now. It's just some movies, there's a ceiling on how much you can make because story-wise, it needs to be done. Okay, I think this movie needs to be done because, like you said, there are other movies that have this big bad. Ultron, for example, was the previous Avengers movie where this big bad robot trying to take over the world, or destroy the world, wherever And this movie is kind of like a reprieve until the next big baddie try to destroy the world or take it over.
I'm not quite sure how that analogy works.
No. What I'm saying is, okay, Captain America, story-wise, I think it can only reach a certain level. Like Iron Man movies, you can only expect it to do a certain level. Because, some stories are not record-breaking, unless you have this, something like Star Wars, which is a cultural phenomenon, like I said. Captain America is not a cultural phenomenon. It's just a story within, these, Marvel Cinematic Universe that kind of leads into other stories.
We debated this already last week, whether or not Captain America is a solo movie or an Avengers movie. And I think most people would agree that this is more of an Avengers type movie than a solo movie, because there are a few missing characters like the Hulk, but otherwise everyone else from the Avengers and even from films that we haven't seen before like Spider-Man all assemble into this movie. I think we talked about this last week already. I think this is more of an Avengers level movie than a solo movie.
And it did Avengers level, opening.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, even if Batman and Superman didn't exist, Civil War would still have a 182 million opening.
Yes.
What I'm saying is, I think it would have been a lot more. It would have done a lot better if Batman v Superman didn't exist, and if Batman v Superman was about something else other than collateral damage, because both of these films are about the same subject matter: the collateral damage of innocent people getting killed because of these huge monster battles between good versus bad. And each of these films dealt with the same subject matter. And I'm thinking, because people have seen Batman v Superman, it took a little bit of the punch out of Captain America Civil War, even though Captain America Civil War is a much better movie and handled it much better.
Okay, that's your take. I'm going to use another franchise to illustrate my point, okay?
Okay.
Take, for example, Star Wars, right? The Force Awakens is a record-breaking movie. I think the next movie, Rogue One, is going to do significantly less.
Yes. So how does that relate?
That relates because they're two different movies.
Wait, are you saying Civil War is a different movie from Batman v Superman, or Civil War is a different movie than Avengers?
What I'm saying is that even though it takes place in the same universe, even though they have similar themes, what I'm saying is that sometimes the movies, the story-wise, it's not as appealing to this big must-see audience. It does not pull in all these big audience. Batman vs Superman might not have an effect on Civil War because the two different things, even though they have similar themes.
I think they're very similar though, especially in terms of the plot and in terms of the conflict of good versus good. And they're all fighting over the same things.
Okay, I'm just leaving it out there. I'm just saying, it's gonna do what it did, regardless if Batman versus Superman is there. It's an alternate take. We're just throwing theories out there.
Yeah.
Both of us could be right. Both of us could be wrong. But it's an alternate take.
Okay, we said what we have to say about Civil War. Let's move on to the number 2 movie.
Number 2 is The Jungle Book. It pulled in about 22 million over the weekend. Wow, the highest drop off so far, right? 50% in its fourth weekend. Domestic total right now is 284 million.
And the worldwide figure is at 776 million. As usual, when you have a movie as huge as Captain America Civil War, it takes business away from basically every other film in the top 10. As seen here, most of the films in the top 10 experience huge drop-offs, like 50 to 60%, even 70%.
Even 70%, and after the second movie, the rest made sub 10 million.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah. There's not much else we can say about Jungle Book other than, hey, it's a huge hit, well-reviewed, continues Disney's profitable live-action adaptations of their animated classics.
Right. Again, I say people were, when they first started on this live action track, people were saying it's a money grab because the animated classics, good enough. And why do live action? Right. And they knew what they were doing.
Yeah. I think one thing we forgot to mention with Captain America Civil War is that worldwide it has already grossed 676 million.
Yeah. It's going to pass Batman vs. Superman soon.
Yeah. In just a couple of weeks. The other thing with Civil War is we will have to see how well it holds up. Because of great reviews, because positive word of mouth, it'll probably hold up a lot better than Batman v Superman.
I would have to stop you there because Batman vs. Superman doesn't have the competition that Captain America Civil War will face in the coming weeks.
Mainly just X-Men in a couple of weeks.
Well, they're Turtles, right? There are all these other movies like must-see tentpoles. So I'm not sure. I think it could slow down because of the season it's in. So we'll see. We'll see. That's something to keep an eye on, is to see how well it holds up. Because even though it opened huge, it has another weekend by itself.
Yeah, it's like 2 more weekends because X-Men opens at the end of the month, and then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But
yeah, there's Alice in Wonderland 2, there's Turtles, on and on.
Yeah, but it still has like another couple weeks to itself. So in these next 2 weeks, we'll see how. I think it'll hold up a lot better than Batman vs Superman. Even looking at the weekend daily numbers, the drop-offs from Friday to Saturday isn't as huge as the drop-off that Batman vs Superman experienced from Friday to Saturday. Yeah, Batman vs Superman looks like it'll top off at around like 330, and Captain America looks like it'll probably end up doing 400 million plus. But we'll have to see in the next couple of weeks.
Right. Okay, so that's all for The Jungle Book, even though we talk more about Captain America, Civil War, and Batman vs Superman. It's still doing great business.
Right. Number 3, Mother's Day, which, unlike every other film in the top 10, had actually experienced a positive. It didn't experience any kind of drop-off. It actually made more money this weekend than the previous weekend.
And that's the good news.
Yeah, it made $9 million over the weekend, mainly because I guess some people do take their mothers to watch movies on Mother's Day. Not that much, but just a little bit. $9 million isn't that much. But some people do take their moms to watch movies. So after 2 weeks, it's already made $21 million. It's still, I think, a disappointment, mainly because of the talent involved and because of how these films have done in the past.
Well, this movie is directed by Gary Marshall, and he just called in some favors for this movie. It's a holiday theme movie. Gary Marshall directed Valentine's Day. He directed New Year's Eve, and
Right.
this just follows the trend, saying, "Hey, I need work, and let's make some holiday theme movies." It's great.
Because the first one did so well.
Right,
Because
right.
Valentine's Day did so well. 50-something million. It was a huge opening.
Right. When you think about it, right? I mean, the movie opened to 8 million, right? The second weekend did a little bit better, but still not great.
Yeah.
When you think about it, Jennifer Aniston, Kate Hudson,
Julia Roberts,
on and on and on and on. I mean,
Yeah.
these are not.
Scrubs.
Well, they're not scrubs, but what I'm saying is this story-wise, I mean, I don't think you need all these people. And what I'm saying is it's not a substantial movie that is a must-see.
Yeah.
That's why it did what it did.
Yeah. Let's move on to the 4th movie. The Huntsman Winter's War, 3.6 million, 63% drop off, and it's made 40 million after 3 weeks of release at a budget of 115 million, so a big time bomb. I don't think we'll see another one of these movies.
Well, it's doing extremely well overseas. Worldwide, it's 146 million.
Right. But, with Civil War and everything, I'm not sure what the worldwide figure is, but I think it's already open as wide as it could open, and it's not gonna, even at 146 million so far, at a 115 million budget, it's still gonna lose a lot of money.
Here is the direction that Universal can take.
Mm.
It proves that overseas there's still a market, or still has fans for this series, so they can lower the budget and go for the overseas audience.
Yeah, if they decide to go that route, or they might just scrap the whole thing altogether. They might not be able to make this movie for cheaper.
Well, they could. I think they could. It might not have the special effects. They just need to cut down the special effects and make it into a straight action movie, action adventure.
I doubt it. Because, especially when it's not like it's making 200 million overseas. It's only made 100 million so far, and it looks like it's already reached its peak. I could see them rethinking the strategy to going for the overseas market if it made like 200 million or more. But at 100 million for this type of movie, it's the second movie already. And, in the US, it's done so poorly. I think they're just gonna scrap it.
Well, we just have to see. I mean, they could go that route, or they could just continue to milk a franchise. Even though it's not doing well here, they could release straight to videos. They could, like I say, go for the overseas market.
Yeah, I could see them going straight to video with B or C level actors.
You mean Chris Hemsworth?
Good
Okay.
one. Yeah.
All right.
You mean Liam? No, Liam. They're gonna get Liam Hemsworth.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on to number 5.
Okay, number 5 is Keanu. It pulled in 3 million over the weekend, a huge drop off of 67%.
Yeah.
And in second weekend, it's pulled in 15 million domestic.
Yeah, which is the same amount of money it costs to make the movie. I would say right now it's kind of a disappointment. It'll probably eventually break even on video, but it looks like it's not going to be much of a profit maker for WB.
This movie is by the comedy duo Key and Peele, right? Who has this hit comedy series on cable.
Yeah, this is not a figure that's promising enough that WB would greenlight other movies by the duo. They'll probably end up staying in cable.
Maybe, but I think the mistake that they did, I guess. Let's see, what did it? I think they just need to pull in other people, comedians for this movie.
Oh,
you know what the SNL people are doing?
I think if you constantly have to pull in, an all-star ensemble comedy cast to draw in a crowd, then you really don't have much of a product.
Even though your script is good, sometimes you need star power to bring people in.
I guess what you're saying is maybe Key and Peele doesn't have enough of a draw to. I guess this is a Monday night quarterbacking, right?
Oh, let's cut to the chase. They're not movie stars.
Yeah. Even though they're movie stars and on cable.
Well, they're on TV. It's just like, oh, we already pay for cable and there's a comedy on. Let's turn on. But once you have to shell out real money.
Yeah, but I guess in the end, we found out that they don't have an appeal outside of the TV show. But we don't know. It's not that, hey, it's a mistake that they didn't draw in other comedians. If they have to put in other comedians to draw a crowd, then it means they're not movie stars to begin with, and they shouldn't have greenlit the movie to begin with.
Well, you have to know your strengths, right? I mean, they're probably background people.
Yeah. Well, that's afterwards. But hey, if the movie had done well, then we'll be like, hey, they always had a crowd.
Yeah, if it did well, then we'll say, yeah, they're awesome, they're great movie stars.
Yeah.
But they're not.
Yeah. So we can't say that, hey, it's a mistake that they didn't put in other people to draw in a crowd.
Con favors Will Ferrell. He's in everything. He's happy to be in everything.
I guess I can see that. Maybe the appeal is mostly TV, and they made a good movie. It's well reviewed, 77% on Rotten Tomatoes. On cable, their fan base isn't as large as WB thought it was, and maybe WB, like you said, could have called in a favor to get Will Ferrell or someone bigger to introduce them. They could be the lead stars, but I guess you can have, like you said, Will Ferrell or a bigger comedian to play a side character. That way they can get the media exposure, and that way I guess WB can introduce them to a more mainstream audience.
Yeah, right.
But I guess you don't know with these things.
Okay, moving along to number 6 is Barbershop: The Next Cut. It pulled in 2.7 million over the weekend. And, it's kind of have a relatively lowish drop off, about 56%. And in 4 weeks, it made 49 million.
What I said for WB.
Yeah, the movie is where we had it. I think it's gonna close at about 50 to 60 million.
Yeah,
which is impressive itself because it has been years.
15 or so years. Yeah.
Since the last movie, and to return and to still have this draw, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, at number 7 is Zootopia at 2.7 million. It experienced a 50% drop off. By far its highest drop off since it was released 10 weeks ago. And after 10 weeks, it has grossed 328 million domestically. Worldwide is at 958 million. Yeah, it looks like it might not reach $1 billion, huh?
No, it's slowing down, yeah.
But, it's still a huge hit for Disney.
Can't complain. A new property, which I'm sure they'll have a Zootopia 2 coming along.
Yeah.
And it's by Disney, not Pixar.
Yeah, and when your movie makes nearly $1 billion worldwide, nothing to complain about.
Yep, happy. Okay, number 8 is The Boss, the Melissa McCarthy comedy. R-rated Girl Scout comedy. It pulled in about 1.7 million over the weekend, and in 5 weeks it made about nearly 60 million, which I think is pretty good.
Yeah, it's twice the budget, twice as much as it costs to make the movie. Financially, it's a hit for Universal. It's just that it's kind of on the lower end of what Melissa McCarthy movies usually make.
Oh yeah, but this is kind of a more, I guess, lower brow comedy.
Yeah.
There is an audience for those. Critics might not like it, but like Adam Sandler, he made his fame with those kind of movies.
Right. All right, let's move on to number 9. Ratchet and Clank at 1.5 million, 70% drop off. It's only made 7 million after 2 weeks, and follows the long trend of video game adaptations that just kind of crash and burned.
Oh yeah, remember you said you couldn't recall any successful video game movies?
Yeah.
Tomb Raider.
Good point. Yep.
But
that's the only one.
That's the only one.
Yep. And that only lasted about 2 films.
Well, right now, the trend is superhero movies, comic book movies, right? The next wave is video game movies. At least that's what they're trying to start. And right now, we're seeing the early efforts. Products like Ratchet and Clank, Angry Birds, that's coming along.
Yeah, and World of Warcraft.
I think they're rebooting Tomb Raider as well, with another actress. So they're gonna keep on trying with the video game characters. And what we know, as with the comic book movies, you need to get talent all the way through for the movie to be successful. And Ratchet and Clank is one of those movies. I think they skimped on certain parts of it.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how World of Warcraft will do, because they did put good money in that, and it does look like a film that they try a little bit better. But like we said last week, unless they decide to change their approach to these movies, it won't change their fortunes.
I don't know. I sense a huge bomb in World of Warcraft for some reason.
You sense a huge bomb?
Yes.
I can see it bombing too. I can see Angry Birds bombing too. I'm pretty sure Angry Birds will bomb, actually.
Actually, I think Angry Birds will do okay, but not great. But we'll get to that when we...
Yeah, when we get to that. Yeah. In general, we don't have high hopes for the video game adaptations that are coming up.
Not right now. I mean, World of Warcraft looks good.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they can have an audience outside of the game. I don't think even the people who play the game will want to go and watch it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. We'll have to see who. Let me see. Duncan Jones directed it, so they actually put in a high caliber director. Someone who came from the indie world, who directed a couple very well reviewed films like Moon. Moon was pretty well reviewed. It's an indie movie that did 5 million, indie hit. And then he did Source Code, which is very well reviewed. It's a time travel movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. Great film, well reviewed. Did the usual Jake Gyllenhaal business, which is about 50 million. It's kind of his ceiling. This time, I think with Warcraft, they actually kind of went the Marvel approach, where they hire an up-and-coming indie director to direct it, and who knows, maybe their fortunes might change with this movie.
We'll see. Okay, this is our preview of the World of Warcraft movie that's coming up.
Yeah.
So we'll talk more about it.
Have we finished the top 10 yet?
No, we still have one more. Okay, moving on. Closing the top 10 is Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. I put in about 1 million over the weekend. For a movie this huge, pulling in 1 million is kind of insulting. But hey, here we are.
Well, it's on the 7th week, so...
It is. But hey, it's Batman. It's Superman.
And it's a good movie to bookend this weekend's top 10 box office.
You're right. We have 2 superhero movies, one at the top and one at the bottom.
Both films are about pitting one good guy versus another. Not surprisingly, it's the film with the biggest drop-off in the top 10, 73%. There's not much more we can say about it other than Batman vs. Superman is the wrong way to make a versus movie, and Captain America Civil War is the right way to make a versus movie between good guys.
Yeah, it could go either way, but I think one of the problem is the... Look, the movie's successful. That's all I can say about it. It's not as successful as they hoped, WB hoped, but, it's still
it's good enough.
Jumping off point for other movies.
Yeah. Like we said in the past, it's good enough. Whereas Captain America Civil War is actually very good.
Right. And I think it goes to what we were kind of alluded to. The Marvel Cinematic Universe it's in the planning for years. We heard that they plan their movies up to 2000 whatever.
Yeah.
They're like 10, 15 movies ahead.
Yeah.
Whereas Batman versus Superman, I think they just did it a couple years ago. When they see that Marvel is doing so well, they suddenly come together, had a meeting, and say, okay, these are the movies that we're gonna make. You figure out how to do it. So that's why there's this scattershot approach to these movies. So, it'll take them a couple movies to get it together. We're going to see, some movies doing better than others, some not so well, but Warner Brothers has the war chest to make it right.
Yeah. Although so far, definitely Marvel's been, Marvel as in the company. But, Fox is doing pretty well with the X-Men films. SWB is kind of a mix. They have the Batman movies and then they have Superman and all the other ones.
Right. Remember, the approach that they used to do is that they see if a movie does well. If it does well, then they get together and talk sequels. Right? I mean, the Marvel approach is, okay, we're going to plan all these movies, all these stories together, and then make it work. There's more continuity, so it doesn't seem like every movie is kind of like a one-off. And then they open this possibility of a sequel at the end.
Yeah, right.
That's it for the top 10. Let's jump into the new openings.
Okay.
We have two. The Darkness, the horror movie starring Kevin Bacon, and Money Monster, the thriller with George Clooney and Julia Roberts.
Directed by Jodie Foster.
Okay, let's start off with Money Monster.
It's another one of these George Clooney type movies. These movies tend to be well reviewed, but box office wise, they tend to kind of hit the 50 million ceiling. They're about current events. They tend to be dramas / thrillers. It does have one of those high concept premises,
Yeah, so basically, I think one of the characters held George Clooney hostage. That guy lost money on a stock tip, apparently. And he held George Clooney hostage.
And then all these hard truths are supposed to come out about the murky morals of all these people in Wall Street. So in the bigger picture of things is about, one guy trying to get answers for what happened during the financial crisis, where a lot of people have lost money because of the stock market and because of the housing bubble.
Gripping stuff.
Yeah. And so this is trying to take one of these personal approaches where they take one guy, like you're one person representing the 1%er, this one guy, so we can try to see through the whole Wall Street world through this, how it affects this one guy, and trying to get all these truths that we haven't been getting.
Oh, right. They're going to explain the stock market and the stock market crash through this movie, just like The Big Short.
Yeah, The Big Short did it in a very entertaining and humorous way. This is going the other approach.
There's going to be a camera, so it's going to be hostage situations.
Yeah, this is more of a dramatic thriller. So what are you thinking?
Okay, well, like you say, this movie is kind of up there with his other message movies, like Burn After Reading, The Ides of March, which is kind of like the summer market too.
Syriana.
Yeah. I mean, Julia Roberts is not that huge of a draw anymore.
Yeah.
George Clooney in these kind of dramas are not that big. I mean, even
they
though,
tend to be well reviewed. They tend to
Uh-huh.
be well reviewed, well regarded. But at the box office, they tend to do mediocre business.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good movie. It's just not mass, for the masses.
Yeah.
And because, hey, Civil War is still in theaters.
I don't see too huge of an appeal. I'm seeing like 10 million type opening.
Oh, I'm gonna go a bit less than that. I'm gonna go 7. Normally, I would have to say 10, but there is this movie, Civil War, and others, Jungle Book as well. I think it's gonna do less.
I'm thinking you're gonna be more right than I am. My 10 million is actually kind of on the upper end.
Okay, we'll see how right we are.
All right.
Okay, next is The Darkness.
Another horror movie.
Yeah, it's by Jason Blum. He's the producer. It stars Kevin Bacon, Rhoda Mitchell, who's a regular in these type of movies.
Now, yeah.
It's about the family went on to a trip to some place and they grab an artifact from, I guess, an Indian burial ground. So it's kind of like the movie Poltergeist.
I don't know, even the Jason Blum brand, these movies haven't been that big lately. Even though they're very profitable, they're made for like million or two and sometimes 100 grand. So they're made for pretty cheap. This one has Kevin Bacon and Walter Mitchell, so it'll cost them more than a couple million, but still probably relatively cheap, maybe 5 million, 10 million max. They've been doing modest business, and that's probably the best we can expect.
I watched the trailer and it's just not scary. It has the same usual stuff, unexplained handprints, jump scares. All in all, it's not that scary.
Yeah, but you know what? There are no horror films in the top 10 in theaters right now.
It doesn't matter, I don't think.
So that dependable crowd of horror fans, always ever reliable.
They would go watch Civil War.
Alright, so what number are you putting it at?
Let's just throw out 5.
Yeah, I'm kind of there too, 5.
I can see it do 5 and hold up well if it's well reviewed and if there's good word of mouth, but I couldn't see it doing that much better because we see the opening of Captain America, right? It sucked up everything, and the movies that are probably way better and more has more name recognition did only 3 million, 2 million, 1 million. It's not looking good for The Darkness. I might be high with my 5 million.
Yeah, it's beginning to feel a little bit repetitive, these Jason Blum horror movies, doesn't it? But yeah, that's why we're going with 5 million. So we'll see.
Okay, so we don't have high hopes for this week's new releases, mainly because the other studios try to keep away from Captain America Civil War. Right. And then next week we have the Angry Birds movie coming out. We have Neighbors 2 and The Nice Guys.
We'll see you guys next week.